Hello, this is going to be a two-part video on taking the sound design that you've developed in FMOD and recording that in Reaper and then exporting it from Reaper back into FMOD. And you might ask why one would do this. The primary reason is I have an event like this, which I'll play, and this is an atmospheric sound. We're in a dungeon cathedral. And we have dripping water. We have these like old ducks, like sort of booming sounds that happen every once in a while quietly. Wind, there's fire going on. And each of these white lines you see on these very useful scatter tools here in FMOD are a voice and count towards your number of voices that are playing in a game. So right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this event is playing 16 different voices, which are sound file references, basically at any given time. So if you have 3 or 4 of these, you can very quickly start ending up in a situation where you have 30, 40, 50 voices just to create an atmospheric sound, and that's a lot. But this randomization here using scatter tools specifically, but also pitch shifting, and I've got falling ambiances and stuff that are sort of randomized, so it never sounds exactly the same, is difficult to achieve in a straight DAW like Pro Tools, Logic, Reaper, FL Studio, Ableton, Samplitude, etc. So what I'm going to do is actually record this as a stereo file in Reaper and then replace the entire event, like it looked like this. I'm going to replace that entire event with a stereo intro file and then a looping section. So that's the plan. And then this instrument is a multi-instrument instead of a scatter instrument, and it will play through these sound elements, and it will only be essentially one voice at a time, but it will still have some of that randomization as a recorded file. An important thing to note here is I have found this timeline is significantly longer than the original. In the original, the entire event is 14 seconds. Once we complete this, the event intro is 28 seconds, double the original event, and the looping section is another 28 seconds. So the entire event is almost a minute long, but it's far less voices. So there's a little more data here. There's more audio files that must be loaded time-wise, but hopefully the voice count goes way down, and we can still bring in some of the randomization on top of what we already have. So let's get into it. The first thing I check here is actually the length of time that I have here in FMOD. And then in a Reaper session, I've set up here. I'm going to start recording, and I have a loop section that is exactly 28 seconds long. And I enable this toggle repeat, which is essentially the loop enable button. We're recording. I want to name the track the same name as my ambient sound design event here in FMOD. So in Reaper, I make sure that that is the same name, and I have Reaper set up so that when I record it then appends to the end of that the date and some information about the file. So it will be, this will be the name of the file. It will be a long file name. And then what I'm going to do is make sure that my input is ReaRoute 1 and 2 in Reaper, And we switch over to FMOD, and I go to Edit Preferences. Here, you can see I have an ASIO and ReaRoute ASIO. That means the output of Reaper is actually this input here. So when we were actually hearing Reaper, when we were hearing FMOD, the output of FMOD becomes the input to Reaper, and this is actually what we're hearing. And that's sort of the trick of all of this. So what I'm going to do is start in Reaper, hit play, or hit record actually, and then quickly jump over and hit play in my sound design event in FMOD. And you might ask, well, why do you need it to be like a similar length, like 14 to 28? And the reason is this automation creates slight pitch shifts and stuff. But I've created it so that it always ends up back at 0. So if your loop in Reaper were only like 10 seconds, let's say, the pitch of this flame every 10 seconds would drop from right here back to 0, and you would hear that loop point. So it needs to be at least a multiple. It could even be 1, but it needs to be at least a multiple length of the loop in FMOD. That's one reason. The other reason is I actually have things that have delay on them. There's a delay thing here. And if something is triggered towards the end, like one of these HVAC duct sound effects gets triggered here at the end, it might go doom. And then the delay, as the playhead repeats, the delay goes doom, doom, doom into your next time around. So if you just hear that, and then it jumped to like another file or the loop restarted, it would cut off that delay part of the triggered sound event from the scatter tool in FMOD. All right. A lot of explanation, but let's get it done. So we go to FMOD, we've set up our point, we've named our file, we have a loop that's, in this case, twice the length, and then we hit record, jump over, hit play. Go back, double check, make sure it's working. And so you might remember in that first example, I said, or when I showed you it in FMOD, I can't switch right now, I said there's an intro part and then the looped part. Well, the intro part is that I need that first time through here to have a small gap just because I can't hit play immediately. But now I'm going to let this record for a bit. In this case, I'm going to let it go around 7 times, and that will, 6 full times and a little bit. And when we come back, we'll see that the results of that, and we'll finish up the second part of this process.